Welcome to Monday Night Yoga. Welcome to my home again. Something a little different tonight. We're going to do two 30-minute classes. So welcome to a mini flow. And if you'd like to combine it with a mini core and stretch to make a full hour, full body, please do so. Otherwise, come on to the tops of your mats. I'm going to kind of angle myself and kind of move throughout the class. But let's get started. Find the mounds underneath the feet. Big toe, little toe, and heel. And let's just shift forward and back. See if you can find those mounds, ground them into your mat. And see if you can find the balance between right foot and left foot. Give the toes a little bit of a wiggle. And then just settle in. Let's just go ahead and bring our palms down to our side bodies. And I want you just to close your eyes. Bring your focus down to your feet. Feeling the feet pressing into your mat. And then start to lift the arches of your feet away from your mat. Draw up through that energy and lift up through the ankles, lifting up and through the shins, and then bend your knees just a little bit. Draw up through the fronts of the thighs to lift those kneecaps up. And then feel this slight internal rotation of the upper thighs to allow the sit bones to open up and let that tail lengthen down. Let's feel that little lift of the pelvic floor, the belly draws in and up. Feel the spine lift one vertebrae at a time, and then feel the tips of the shoulders roll open and back. The blades widening into your back. Tucking that chin slightly, lift out of the crown of the head, letting those ears come over the shoulders over top of the hips, and see if you can just find the balance and weight between front body and left body. And then relaxing the muscles of the face, opening the throat, relaxing the jaw. And just focus on your breath. Following it as you inhale in through your nose and exhale through the nose. And see if you can find that oceanic sound as you exhale, allowing the breath to vibrate on the roof of the mouth, just sounding like the ocean. And feeling that hollowness in the back of the throat as you inhale. Just allowing the breath to lengthen and deepen. Filling up through the belly, wide through the waist, and wide and open into the rib cage. Keeping those shoulders relaxed away from the ears. And feel that movement through the fronts, the sides, and the back bodies. Let's spread our fingers nice and wide, and the next inhalation, inhale all the way up. And as you exhale, bend at your knees, bend at your hips, and shoot your sit bones back towards the end of the floor. Inhale, lift all the way up. Exhale, lengthen on out, keeping that back nice and flat. Inhale, keeping those knees pointing forward, but that little gap between those, and exhale. Inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale. Let's take that little hinge off to that left side, opening up through the side body. And exhale, come on down. Inhale off to the other side. And exhale, come down. This time, let's inhale all the way up tall. And we're going to swan dive forward, lengthening, lifting out the tail, lifting up through the knees, dropping the belly down to the thighs, the chest to the knees, the forehead to the shins. And give the shoulders a little shake, maybe look side to side. Lengthening through the neck. Lengthening through that upper back, lifting the tail, lengthening through the back of the hamstrings. Let's draw our navel in, tuck our tail under, reach for the floor and start to come up vertebrae by vertebrae. Keeping that chin tucked into the last minute. Take one more deep breath in as you roll the shoulders open and back, and then exhale, back down you go. Let's bring a bend in the knees. Inhale the hands all the way up tall. And exhale like an accordion, fold back to the ground. Let's hinge off to that right side, long side body stretch. And come back to the earth. And big stretch off to that left side. And back to the earth. One more time to come all the way up. Swan dive forward, leading with the chest. Lifting the tail, belly to thighs, chest to knees. Relax into your pose. Draw the navel in, tail curls under, start to round up, vertebrae upon vertebrae. Take a deep breath at the top, roll those shoulders open wide through the chest, and then exhale, down you come. Fingertips landing at your mat, lower your sit bones down, inhale the hands coming into chair pose. Let's pull the shoulders back, feel the chest bone rise forward, drawing that belly in and lengthen that tail down. We're going to shift our body weight over to that right side, step back with the left and press the heel right to the ground. Finding the toes turn forward, the heels turn back, open the elbows, lift up. Exhale, press the heel into the ground, feeling the stretch into the back of the calf. Inhale, come up. Exhale, thumbs turn up. Inhale, lift. And exhale. Let's take one more breath. Inhale. And exhale. Bring your hands to your hips, curl your toe under, lifting out that supporting foot. Lengthen out of the front of the ankle. And then give your toes a little wiggle. And again, lengthen and lift, pulling up away from the floor rather than pressing into it. And relax. 2 more times. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, relax. And 1 more. Let's bring those feet back together. Inhale the hands all the way up. Exhale, swan dive forward. Round up vertebrae upon vertebrae, tucking the tummy, pulling the tail down. Rolling open through the chest and coming back down. Fingertips to the ground, lower the sit bones, reach up, pull the shoulders back. Shifting that body weight over again, we're going to step back with the right foot. Heel to the ground. Let's lift up to the elbow. Reach in front. Elbows to hip. Thinking about a nice long line from heel to hip to shoulders to crown of the head. And down. Let's take 1 more breath, lengthen out that front leg and lowering down. Bring hands to the hips, curl the toe under, lift out of that right foot. Lift out of that left hip. Relax and wiggle. And again, lift up. Exhale. 2 more breaths. And relax. And 1 more. Bring those feet together. Inhale the hands up. Exhale, swan dive. Inhale, curl. Roll the shoulders, elbows to hips. Exhale, down. Fingertips to the earth. Lower the sit bones. Come into that chair pose. Shifting that body weight again. Step back with the left leg. Press the heel to the ground. We're going to add a little balance pose onto this. We're going to draw those elbows to the hips. Lower on down, bring those hands to the hips and float forward, pointing your toe, topping tree. Lower the toe to the ground, lift the hands up, elbows to hips. Lower on down, press out of that back foot, open the chest, lengthen out. Lower, bend that front knee, lift up. Lower down, come on forward. We're going to take 1 more, lowering that foot, heel to the ground, lift on up. This time we're going to float forward and we're going to stay in that toppling tree. And if you find that your mat is too squishy and you're finding you're not quite balanced, feel free to come off onto the floor as we move through the next couple of balance poses. Lengthen on back, open through that chest, really press that toe, maybe lift a little higher, maybe tilt a little bit more. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then float on forward, bring that knee up and open the arms for a balance. We're going to flex our foot at this point. If you want to hang on to that thigh, open up for a little bit more twist, you can. You can always extend that leg, grabbing onto the foot or keeping that hand in that thigh. Draw in through the navel, open up, roll open through the ribs. Gaze can stay forward or you can take it back. Working on that balance. Or you can just hold, keeping that flex foot. Bring those hands all the way up. We're going to take that heel across the thigh, open the knee, sink back into our figure 4 chair pose. Pull the shoulders back. Maybe your hands are here. Maybe they're here. Maybe they're here. Lengthening in that tail, really think long through the spine. Sinking back a little further into that heel. For another 3. Oh, holding that hold for 2. Maybe 1 more. Go ahead and inhale up. Let's put that foot right in front of that supporting foot. Forward and back. Seeing if you can find that balance. I'm going to come back to my front mat. And imagine that you're walking a little balance beam. Here you are. Finding balance between front foot and left foot. And if you're a little balance challenge, just take them a little bit wider, but try and keep them pointing forward, keeping your hips pointing forward at the same time. You can tuck those hands into your back hip pockets, stack them, or come into that reverse prayer position. Roll the tips of the shoulders back as you pull up through the belly button. Let's go ahead and tuck our chin. Lift the crown of the head all the way up. You can lower your gaze or you can close your eyes. Taking your focus down to your toes, your mounds, big toe, little toe, and heel. Lifting up through the arches of the feet, up through the ankles, the shins, lifting out of the knees. Drawing up through the thighs, up through the hips. Tilting the tail slightly as you pull that belly button in and lift up through the pelvic floor. Very nice. Rolling those shoulders back. Lift through the breastbone, tuck the chin, lift through the crown, and then allow the muscles of the face to relax. Allow tension through the neck and the shoulders to relax. Following your breath as you inhale, think about growing a little bit taller. And as you exhale, relax the tension. Inhale to lengthen. And exhale to soften. Let's take 2 more deep breaths here. And 1 more. Go ahead and open your eyes. Inhale the hands all the way back. We're going to bend the knees and we're going to step back with that right leg, pressing the heel right to the ground. I'm going to shift my body up this way. Let's go ahead and lift out on the toes. Lower down to the ground, float forward into that toppling tree. Lengthen, pointing the toe, lifting up, drawing the belly button in. Lower the toe, lower the heel, reach the arms. Inhale. Exhale. Shift forward. Lower down. Lift up. And lower. Shift forward. Let's take 1 more breath. Now let's hold our toppling tree, lengthening through that back toe, keeping that chest open, belly button pulled in, lifting out of that pelvic floor and out of that supporting hip. Everything might be shaking just a little bit. Let's see if we can lengthen and lift a little bit more for 3, 2, possibly 1 more, and then come all the way forward. Flexing that foot, open up, and I'm going to come off onto the floor for a little bit more balance. And finding your twist as you hold this balance pose. Again, you can bring that hand to the outside of the thigh for a little bit more twist and to assist with keeping that leg where it is. You can lengthen out. If you want, you can grab onto the outside of that foot if that's available to you. Let's see if we can drop through the breastbone. Lengthen out through the arms. Maybe hold this for another 3 deep breaths. And then on that last one, bring those hands all the way up. Keeping that foot flexed, cross over top of the thighs. Sink back into your figure 4 chair pose. Keeping that ankle nice and strong is going to support that knee joint as you sink back. Again, hands might be here. Keep that chest lifted. They might be here. They might be here. Find what works for you. Finding that little spot to focus on. Keep drawing in through the belly, lengthening the tail behind you. Let's maybe sit back a little bit more for 3. A little lower for 2. And 1 more, stand up. Go ahead and bring that right foot in front of left foot to find your balance pose. Hands again can come into those back hip pockets. Stack and stack in the other direction. Or come into that reverse prayer, but think about which thumb you had on top. So just make sure you change that. And then shift forward and back. See if you can find the balance between right foot and left foot. Go ahead and lower the gaze. or close your eyes, but keep that chin parallel to the floor. And then bring your awareness down to your feet, lifting out of the ankles, up through the shins, softening the knees just a little bit, drawing up through the pelvic floor, lifting up through the hips. The navel draws in, the tail lengthens down. Spine by vertebrae by vertebrae lifting, lengthening that spine, rolling open through the shoulders, widening through the collar, lifting through the crown, softening the brow. 3 more deep breaths. Go ahead and open your eyes. Inhale those hands all the way up. Bring those feet back together. Let's swan dive forward just for a little bit of a break. Give the hips a little shake, a little shift side to side. As we move into that flow one more time and add on. Let's soften those knees. Inhale those hands up into that chair pose. Shift over. This time let's come into a little balance first as we push that left foot forward. Sinking back just a bit more, keeping that knee bent. Let's go ahead and step it back. We're going to move through the top of our flow to come up, come down, float forward, hold this for 2 breaths. Bring yourself forward, knee comes up, open up. Whatever this looks like for 2 breaths. Bring those hands back out in front, step that foot back. Press down. Inhale, come up. Lower down. Float forward, toppling tree. 2 breaths here. Slowing everything down, feel nice and control. Inhale, forward and lift. Open up. 2 deep breaths. And let's take it one more time. Hands in front, step back. Heel to the ground, lift on up. Feel the stretch of the back of the calf into the Achilles. Tip forward, open up, lengthening. 2 giant breaths here. Focus on that breath. Inhale, come forward. Open up, flex that foot. Open up through the rib cage, maybe open up a little bit more. Let's take 1 more breath. And then go ahead and step back into that warrior 2 pose. So have a look at those feet. Front foot landing in the arch of the back foot parallel to the back of your mat, or tuck the toe forward just a little bit. Let's bend that knee right over top of the ankle, pointing the tip of the toe forward, or tip of the knee forward. And let's just add a little bit of movement through those hips first. Lift on up, and exhale. Lift on up, and exhale. Keeping that knee turned towards that 2nd and 3rd toe. We're going to take 1 more and we're going to settle into our warrior 2. Keeping that strong right leg, very long left leg. And the spine lifts up nice and tall. Opening as you reach your fingertips towards front and back of your mat. We're going to lower that back arm, lift the front arm, maybe sink a little deeper into that front leg, but don't let the knee go past the toe. And then go ahead and bring that right hand onto right thigh. Bringing that left bicep to the ear, let's shift everything down. So if you want to look at yourself in the side, we're in a nice long line from the ankle to the hip, to the armpit, to the fingertips. So you want to watch that you're not leaning, but that you're lifting, sinking into that front leg. We're going to inhale and come up, this time lengthen that front leg. Exhale down into your side angle pose. Open the armpit towards the front. Inhale, come up. Exhale. Inhale, lift up. Exhale and reach. Let's take 1 more breath. We're going to come into that side angle pose and go ahead and stay there. Pull that shoulder down. Or lower that hand down to the front of that shin, lifting the arm up, coming into a little bent-legged triangle, or lengthening and bumping that hip back into your full triangle. Hand can settle onto that shin. If you have a block, you press it into the block. Whichever pose you choose, think about that spine lengthening rather than dropping. Bringing that right hip bone to right thigh bone and lift. Think about that knee on the right side. Pull the knee up. Watch it doesn't lock out. Keep it pulled up. Strong, strong pose. Let's hold for another 2 deep breaths here. Press now that front leg, come all the way up. We're going to turn our toes towards the front, lifting those arms. Exhale for a nice relaxing forward fold, wide legs. I want you to think about lifting that tail up, hinging up at hip creases, trying to keep the back as flat as possible. Maybe grabbing onto those elbows, reaching to the outside, or walking your hands behind. So find that option that's going to work for you. That's going to feel really good for that upper spine. And hang out here. Internally rotate those thighs. Allow the sit bones to open so that tail can lift right up. We're going to bring our hands onto our hip creases, taking a deep breath here. Exhale halfway up. Taking a deep breath in. Exhale the rest of the way up. Let's reach those hands all the way up. Turn that front foot back towards the front of your mat. Come back into your warrior 2. We're going to take a deep breath in as we come up into that exalted warrior, and then windmill your hands all the way down. Pivot on that back heel and step back into downward facing dog. So lifting on up, taking those feet hip width apart, press through the hands, bend your knees if you need to, pull the shoulders back and roll the biceps in. Just pedal out those heels, pedal out those knees. We're going to take one little breath before we move into our next side. Let's come up onto our toes, lower to our shin bones, press back, lengthening your toes, coming into child's pose. Curl the tail right down. Reaching your hands out in front, opening the shoulders by rolling the biceps in, and then pull away from your hands as you reach your fingertips. Let's come on up into a tabletop. Think about a nice long spine, knees over underneath the hips, hands underneath the wrists. Let's just tuck into our cat pose, push out of our hands. Inhale, come up into our cow pose. Exhale, round out into cat, and come into cow. We're going to take one more breath, rounding out, coming into cow, and then pushing those hands away from you, come back into child's pose, reaching the hands a little bit further. We're going to modify this slightly next time. So tucking that tail down, round out. Go ahead and rest your forehead if you want. This time when we come up, your hands are going to be a little bit in front of your shoulders, maybe a little bit more. Rounding out into our cat. Inhale into our modified cow. Round out into your cat. Go ahead and come into your modified cow or come into an upward facing dog, or keep those knees on the ground for a modified cobra or an up cobra. We're going to tuck those toes under, draw into the belly first, and lift the tail all the way up and back into your downward dog. We're going to do that flow one more time as we lift up onto our toes, lower to our shin bones, come back into child's pose. Tail to the ground, draw the shoulders wide. Maybe this time keep your wrists or your forearms down to the ground as you slide your breastbone forward, moving up into cow first. Exhale, round into cat. Move back into that cow or lower the hips, lift into chest, lengthening on out. Tucking those toes under, lift all the way up and back into downward dog. Draw the shoulders back, come up onto the toes, walk, step, or jump your feet forward right between your hands, and then inhale the hands all the way up. Exhale, come down towards the heart center. Inhale, lift all the way up. Exhale, swan dive forward. Fingertips to the ground, lower the sit bones, lift those hands all the way up. Hard to believe we're coming right back to the front, to the beginning. Shift that body weight over, bring that right foot out in front. Let's hold here just for a couple moments, and then step back. Pressing that toe into the ground, I'm gonna just shift forward here. Press the heel into the ground, the toes pointing forward. Let's come up onto that toe. Lower down, shift your body weight forward. 2 big breaths. Inhale, lift up, flex that foot, open up into your little twisted balance pose. Lift on up, step on back. Press heel to the ground, lift up, lower down, float forward, lengthening through the toe, lifting up through the pelvic floor. 2 deep breaths and then lifting up. Flex that foot, open up. 2 deep breaths here. Keep lifting out that supporting knee. We've got one more time. Step back. Pressing the heel to the ground, lift on up. Lower down. Float forward. Opening through that chest. 2 deep breaths. Come on forward. Flex the foot. 2 deep breaths here. Let's step back into your warrior 2. Here I thought I put my phone on silence. I guess not. Let's lower that hand, lift all the way up, come into that exalted warrior this side, keeping that knee over top of the ankle. And then exhale, bring your hand down to your thigh, lift up through the bicep, and sink down. Open that armpit towards the front. Again, think about that long line. From the heel to the hip to the armpit, right out through that fingertip. This time, as you inhale, lengthen that front leg, exalted warrior. Exhale, side angle pose. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, side angle pose. 2 more deep breaths. Exhale. And 1 more. Let's go ahead and come into that side angle pose. Feel free to stay here. Support onto that thigh. Bring that hand down in front of the shin. Lift up through the arms into a nice long crossbar. Or lengthen out and come into that triangle pose. Shooting that right hip back, bringing that left hip onto left thigh bone. Lift the tail up and away from you. Feel that stretch across the chest. You can take your gaze up if you want. And then when you're ready, press out that front leg coming all the way up. Turn your toes, fingertips to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Wide legs. Let's grab onto the other elbows. So reverse whichever direction you had it, or maybe try a different option. But see if you can roll those thighs in, let the sit bones open up. Let that belly come between the thighs and hang out. Let's bring our hands onto our hip creases. Exhale halfway up. Take a deep breath here. Exhale the rest of the way up. Inhale the hands tall. Exhale back into that warrior 2 pose. Inhale, lift the hands all the way up. Exhale, windmill all the way down. Step back into that downward dog. Let's take 1 flow as we had before. Inhale up onto your toes. Lower to your shins. Press back into our child's pose. Draw the arms back. Let the forehead rest. Possibly bring the forearms down. Let the chest come along the ground. Tail lifts up. Inhale, lift up into our cat. Our cow, round out into our cat. Come back into your cow or into that cobra or that up dog. And then curl those toes under. Lift all the way up into final down dog. Pedal out the hips, pedal out those knees. Lift up onto your toes, lower your knees this time wide. Tuck the toes together, press back into your wide-legged child's pose. Settle into your hips. Hands maybe will rest here, forehead to the hands. Or tuck your hands to your heels, forehead to the ground. Keep that neck long. I want you to hang out here for about 4 deep breaths. Just settle into your pose, arms resting on your thighs, tail lengthening down to the heels.